Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hermitcraft. And goodness me, is it going to be an important episode today, because I've got to very clearly communicate with you what this project that we are about to undertake together is going to be. And it'll take place in this location, which me and Keralis have built in the last episode. If you remember that episode, I didn't actually show the finished building. I wanted you to go and check out Keralis' video because he was so kind as to lend us his time, not only to design this whole build, but to come on here on the server and help me build it in survival. And it has turned out to be just one marvelous, fantastic, modern building. And quite a few guessed that this indeed, it's going to be an art gallery. Now, what art is going to go in here? Well, maybe some of your art. Yeah, this is going to bring fan art into the Hermitcraft world. But this is something that has to be handled with care. So, for the next part of the video, we're going to be shifting over to some scripted stuff that I wrote down so I could clearly express everything about what I want to do with this project. And that probably means that the background footage is going to be B-roll. So you might just want to pick up this episode while you're doing some chores or cooking or doing something else and have a listen, as what's on the screen is not really going to relate directly to what I will be saying. I will, however, be showcasing this beautiful build with a shader pack on, so keep watching if that eye candy is to your liking. So one of the things that fuels my passion for Hermitcraft is the incredible fan art the talented artists in our community create. I know I don't speak just for myself, other hermits have been very vocal about this too, and that's why I like this idea to bring fan art onto the server. It's really stuck with me, and I wanted to make it happen this season. Although there has been some resource pack tech to do this for a while, Minecraft 1.21 made it possible to add your own paintings through a combination of data pack and resource packs. I plan on showing you a bit more about that later in this episode. Anyways, the point for now is that I want to celebrate the incredible community we have here by bringing some of your creations to the server. This will then bring the fan art to even more people through the videos and of course the world download, which will ship with these custom paintings. That should also be true of the Bedrock download and possibly one day Season 10 on the Minecraft Marketplace. Now, this may seem like a straightforward thing to do, but you have to consider other people's wishes in such a large group and even the legality of bringing other creators' content into this world that will be distributed at a later date. That's why I need to clearly communicate to you the what, the why, the where, and the how of this fan art project. So I've cleared this with the group, however this does not mean everyone has to or will be willing to participate, and it's important to respect one another's decisions when it comes to these sorts of things. In short, this sounds like a great idea to put fan art into our world, but when you break it down, there are a lot of details and questions, maybe some ethical concerns that are not so clear and obvious. And everyone has a different perspective and feeling on how to handle such matters. So if a certain hermit doesn't want to get involved, please do respect their decision. And if they don't wish to divulge their reasoning, they shouldn't have to. Now, this next talking point should illuminate how this isn't so straightforward and why this might be uncomfortable for some hermits. If we roll back the years, there was a time when we would do a mid-season world tour. This was an event where we hosted a copy of the world for fans to log in to a public server and explore it with us during a live stream. Sounds great, however, I got a lot of negativity aimed back at me after the event. Why? Because a lot of people were unable to connect and get a chance to explore the world. We always knew not everyone would get on, but we failed to communicate this. So a lot of people had their hopes up high, not realizing there wouldn't be a space for everyone to log on and explore the world. So I had assumed people would understand that we were trying to do a nice thing by getting some people on, where creating a setup for everyone to get into the world was just impractical. Had I made that clear, that only a limited amount of people would be able to get on, sore feelings could have been avoided. So lesson learned, and now maybe you're starting to see how this might not be so straightforward. How will artists feel about not being included in this project? there is only going to be a very limited amount of space due to technical limitations. The world cannot support an endless amount of paintings, and with 27 fan art galleries, the number of paintings could quickly balloon in size, which is why we will likely start out with around 5 fan arts per hermit. Then there is the selection process. How should we go about picking fan art? What is the fair way to do this? Should there be competitions? This is where the individual hermit's feelings will diverge, and we have to respect how one another wants to handle this. The important thing I want to make crystal clear to our amazing artists is that we have a very limited space to do this with. We want to create something wonderful together for everyone to enjoy and make you a part of the world too, but ultimately only a slim amount of entries will make it onto the server. So I'd really love for us all to keep that in mind, so there are no hard feelings, as I am sure there will be many wonderful creations that sadly won't make it onto the world. I also mentioned legality earlier on. This is because distributing another person's artistic work needs to be done so with their consent. We would not want to be caught out if an artist later changed their mind about being part of this project. For that, we will be asking artists to publish their submissions under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. This license asks that we provide attribution for artists. We can do this via in-game signs, the paintings themselves, and credit in the resource pack that is a part of the world. We may even provide a text file in the world download too. Since being on Hermitcraft is a part of our jobs as content creators on Twitch and YouTube, this license will allow us to use the artwork in a commercial environment. If a Minecraft world is or isn't that, we would rather have this included to cover ourselves. Because the art is being used in a different medium, the Minecraft game itself, this license also covers the work being adapted under any terms. And here is an example of what this would look like. It would need to be attached along with a submission of the artwork. So when I kick off submissions for my own art gallery, I'll be asking for the fan art to be published with this license. We will most likely do this through the Hermitcraft subreddit. Okay, so what's next? We have covered most of what I needed to communicate. The last consideration is pacing. The end of the season is a long way off, so we have plenty of time to fill out the art gallery. Because of this, we will most likely be focusing on 1 or 2 hermits at a time. This process could take a week or more to complete. It's all a bit unknown currently, so please be patient and stay tuned for instructions if you want to participate. So with all of that clearly communicated now, I am not actually going to kick off my own submissions just yet. I think it's a good idea to get some feedback from all else. So comment down below, let me know what you think of that, any things we might not have thought about. I think before we kick off the first wave of doing this, we want to think it through a little bit more, and your feedback will be invaluable with all of that. Anyways, we got more stuff to do with this project this episode, but I just got to say, wowzers, these shaders are gorgeous. I have quite often resisted Minecraft shaders in this game. I'm really fond of its default aesthetic, and often I think that shaders strive for a little too much realism, but this pack right here is stunning, and I love this ambient fog that's just lingering around nearby. It's so cool. And the builds, they just go to a different level with these shaders on, right? Goodness me, I feel a Shaders World Tour episode might be coming on. I like this so much, but let's stick to the project at hand. It's all about the art gallery today. Alright, the shaders are off, and we're going to take a little wander inside of the art gallery. We're entering through one of the entrances. There are actually just 2 of them. You can kind of distinguish them by these slabs that lead down into these foyer areas, but there's no official entrance or exit, and the layout is very non-linear. Now, when I say layout, that's because these are going to be divided into areas for the hermits to uptake and fill these spaces, decorate them with their own vision, but put in the fan art, of course. So one by one, these spaces can start to fill up. In this curved area, it's not quite so obvious where those are, but if we wander around the corner here and walk through this corridor, you can see how the walls here kind of segment these spaces so they can be picked up and turned into a little art gallery. Okay, now let's get technical. We're going to need a resource pack and a data pack to do this. And we're actually going to keep this separate from the resource pack that does the custom models, like my hat up here. And then at the end of the season, we're going to merge them together because these might balloon in size because we're putting images onto the server and they can take up a lot of data space. Now, as I mentioned, 1.21 allows us to introduce our own paintings. They can't be gotten in survival though, so you can't just randomly place this down and get it. This is our test image, by the way. This is the image that we use for like the server icon. And as it says here in the tooltip, it's a 4x4. The Hermitcraft, by the way, is the author, so we can put the author's name into these paintings, and then the yellow text is the title of the image. So when I go ahead and break this, it actually just drops as a regular painting, and then I'll never be able to get that one back again unless I use a command to give me the correct one. Now that's perfectly fine because we kind of want to limit the fan art stuff to just this part of the server. Let's head over to the spawn chunks to explain this next problem. We have to ask the question, how much fidelity do we want to bring onto the server? The higher the resolution, the less Minecrafty it's going to feel, right? So a map would make a really good reference as it can also fill up a full block, but this is 128 blocks across the top and 128 down. And you can imagine that as a 1x1 painting on a wall. So if you want to make a 2x2, it could be 256. If you want to make a 4x4, it would be 512. That is precisely how many pixels have gone into this 4x4 image. You can also see that lighting is going to be a little bit of an issue. That will fortunately go away if we plaster this onto a wall of light blocks. So now the image looks perfectly normal when we paste it down. Now there is a bit of an issue here because I feel like a 4x4 painting is a decent size for this art gallery. The smaller ones might not look as good inside such a big space. So let's assume that all of the artwork coming on is going to have a rather large canvas size. So this image is 330 kilobytes. Let's just imagine we scale that up with a bit of wiggle room. We could be looking at a resource pack that's about 50 megabytes. So for the Java World download, not a problem. But on the Bedrock Marketplace, this will be limited to around 400 megabytes, so it starts to really eat into the space that's available. So I've conducted a bit of an experiment I would like your feedback on when it comes to compressing these images. To make them feel more Minecrafty, I thought it would be a cool idea to emulate the Minecraft map color palette. Unfortunately, on the Minecraft wiki, there is some information about this. It actually lists all of the different colors in RGB, and it tells you what blocks you can place to get that color on the map. Now there are 61 of these in total, but those are base colors and they have 4 associated map colors as well. Here is a really cool image of what all the colors available to us are. Now to make my life a little easier, I did actually find this website that puts all of these colors into a palette for you, and then you can download it in a bunch of different formats, which was super useful. So you might now know where this is going, as these ones are labeled with GIF, which is an image file format, and it allows you to compress the image by using a limited amount of colors. Of course, those colors are going to be the palette from the Minecraft map. So now when we put this down, you can see some obvious compression here with these lines of colors that have been split up. I mean, the logo looks a bit janky. I would consider that to be a serious degradation of quality. But you know, it reduces the file size down to like 80 kilobytes, which saves a lot of space. And luckily there's a technique for doing this. I think it's called differing, which is a little better. It'll basically jostle some groups of colors together in a pattern to kind of create a gradient or fade. So now you can see it's a little more tolerable, but still quite noticeable. And I mentioned earlier how things sometimes seem really simple, but there's always many more things to consider. Like, does the artist actually want their images to be compressed like this? And what about the aspect ratio? This one, for example, is 1:1. It's 4 blocks across in both directions, which means the aspect ratio is equal. This one here, for example, is 4 tall to 3 wide, and then we have 2 tall to 1 wide. Now, of the existing fan art that I've seen and collected over the years, not many of them actually conform to these aspect ratios. Does that mean that we should be stretching and manipulating images or cropping them? Probably not, and this is a reason why I think we're probably going to end up like asking for new submissions to come in here so that we can meet all of these requirements. So if you're an artist and you want to get involved, I'd say just hold your horses for a moment. Don't jump into anything straight away. We still have some details to figure out, but one thing to consider is the aspect ratio and the size of your painting when it comes onto Hermitcraft. And that, my friends, are all of the details that you need to know about. There's a whole bunch more technical stuff that I could drone on about as to how we get all of this onto the server, but that's just something I'll take care of in the background. So as I said earlier, it's time to stay tuned. I'm going to get all of your comments and feedback, and we're going to be kicking this thing off soon once I know the correct way to proceed. But those are all of my ideas. As I said, looking forward to hearing your feedback. This is where we're going to wrap up this episode earlier than usual because it is just about kicking off this new project. So thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon with another episode of Hermitcraft. Bye-bye.